In 2018, the Consumer Product Safety Commission forced the recall of over 1 million chainsaws because the power switch did not work. The saw kept running after you told it to stop. Then in 2025, Milwaukee recalled nearly 100,000 of its premium professional saws sold for up to $790, because the safety mechanism designed to prevent the chain from removing your hand failed to activate during kickback. 2 companies, 2 price points, 1 industry. Why are the most recognized chainsaw names in America the ones that professionals quietly refuse to buy? Why does the company that makes the chain on almost every saw you have ever owned now belong to a private equity firm counting down to its exit? And what do the loggers and arborists whose lives depend on this equipment actually purchase instead? We are going to expose what the chainsaw industry has spent decades hiding and show you the only 3 categories of saws worth spending real money on. If you have walked into a hardware store recently, you might believe you are looking at a competitive marketplace full of heritage brands fighting to earn your trust. You see McCulloch, Johnsard, Poulin, Partner, and Weed Eater. You assume these are independent companies with separate engineering teams competing to build a more reliable product. That is an illusion. One publicly traded Swedish conglomerate, Husqvarna Group, owns almost every one of those names. They spent decades acquiring independent competitors, and when they ran out of competitors to acquire, they kept the logos and systematically stripped the quality behind them. The result is a marketplace that looks like competition, but functions like a monopoly dressed in different colors. But the consolidation does not stop at brand ownership. It reaches all the way down to the chain on the bar. Oregon Tool, the Portland-based manufacturer whose drive link chain geometry became the global industry standard, supplies original equipment chain to virtually every manufacturer that matters globally. Most buyers have never heard the name. Several years ago, a Beverly Hills private equity firm quietly acquired Oregon Tool, the invisible infrastructure at the base of the entire industry. The component that actually cuts the wood now belongs to a firm whose operating model runs on margin improvement and a profitable exit. Understanding why that matters requires understanding what this industry looked like before it was bought, sold, and consolidated into what you see today. Here is why every one of those facts should change how you shop for a saw. The modern chainsaw market's consolidation story begins in 1977 when Electrolux, the Swedish appliance conglomerate, acquired Husqvarna. 2 years later, they absorbed Partner and Johnsard. Through the 1980s, they purchased Poulin and Weed Eater, and they shuttered the original Poulin factory in Shreveport, Louisiana within a few years of the acquisition. McCulloch followed, then Redmax and the Japanese brand Zenoa. By 2006, when Electrolux spun the outdoor power division off as the publicly listed Husqvarna Group, they had converted more than a dozen competing manufacturers into a single entity whose primary obligation runs to shareholders, not to the person picking up the saw. Today, Husqvarna Group reports roughly $4.5 billion in annual net sales, and it has approximately 12,300 employees. The brand portfolio tells the real story. The Poulin Pro saws at Home Depot for under $200 are Husqvarna Group. The McCulloch entry-level saws sold across Europe are Husqvarna Group. The Johnsard professional saws that loggers once trusted with their livelihoods are Husqvarna Group, now largely discontinued. One company, dozens of legacy names, a production system built around volume over craftsmanship. Here is the number the industry does not want on your radar: 40 hours. That is the estimated useful service life engineered into the cheapest consumer chainsaw tier, the Poulin, Remington, and off-brand hardware store models that make up the majority of units sold in the United States every year. Not 400 hours, not 4,000, 40. Chainsaw mechanics and professional service dealers have documented this threshold on trade forums for years. Stihl professional saws carry design service lives of 500 to well over 1,000 hours, depending on the model. The difference is, Construction. Professional chainsaws are built around magnesium crankcases, precision machined, rebuildable housings designed to be disassembled and serviced by a mechanic 20 or 30 years after they left the factory. Budget consumer saws use plastic clamshell cases with non-replaceable bearings and riveted housings you cannot open without destroying them. The engine is not engineered to be repaired, it is engineered to run until it fails, at which point the economics point to replacement, not a rebuild. That distinction is completely invisible at the point of sale. The saw looks like a tool. What you are actually buying is a disposable appliance in an orange housing. Now consider what the recall record reveals. The first case is documented in the Federal Register. In May of 2018, Recall 18-131 covered exactly 1,020,000 chainsaws sold at Harbor Freight under the Portland One Stop Gardens and Chicago Electric names. The power switch did not reliably cut motor power. 15 reports of the saw continuing to run after the operator released the trigger. 3 lacerations, 1 injury requiring stitches. These saws had sold for approximately $50 each since 2009. A tool that will not stop when you command it to stop is not a tool with a defect. It is a fundamentally dangerous object, and the Harbor Freight saw did not exist in isolation. At the height of the consumer chainsaw safety crisis, the Consumer Product Safety Commission recorded nearly 40,000 medically attended kickback injuries in the United States in a single year, 1982. The cause was a flood of underpowered, poorly designed consumer equipment entering a market that had no mandatory safety standards until 1985. The budget chainsaw tier is not a recent problem. It is a decades-long pattern the industry has never been required to address publicly. Some people use the Harbor Freight recall to close the argument, cheap product, budget brand, a problem isolated to the bottom of the market. The next recall made that containment impossible. In October of 2025, Milwaukee Tool recalled 90,860 M18 fuel top-handle chainsaws in the United States and another 7,500 in Canada. These were not $50 saws. Some kits in this line retailed well above $700, marketed directly to professional arborists. The chain brake, the mechanical and inertial device that stops the chain during kickback, failed to activate. 2 incidents confirmed, 1 finger laceration documented on 91,000 professional-grade saws. The safety system that defines the entire category of professional chainsaw design did not perform. To understand why that matters beyond the injury statistics, you need to understand what arborists actually face. Kickback, the sudden upward rotation of the bar when the tip contacts a surface unexpectedly, happens in fractions of a second, faster than any human can react. The chain brake exists because no human reflex is fast enough to prevent the chain from reaching the operator's body without mechanical intervention. Professional arborists working in trees, where a kickback event means a running chain moving toward the face, the neck, or the arm, rely on the chain brake not as a backup, but as the primary survival mechanism. When Milwaukee shipped saws with brakes that did not reliably fire, it was not shipping a product with a minor defect. It was shipping a product where a known fatal injury scenario was not reliably prevented. Now bring Oregon Tool into that context. Joe Cox founded the Oregon Saw Chain Corporation in Portland in 1947 and developed the chain geometry that became the worldwide standard, the same geometry running under every major brand's bar today. Oregon Tool supplies first-fit chain to Stihl, Husqvarna, Echo, and every other manufacturer of consequence. In October of 2021, Platinum Equity, a Beverly Hills private equity firm, formally acquired the company. The standard private equity hold period runs 3 to 7 years. Oregon Tool is now in year 4. The levers available to any owner optimizing for exit are universal: tighten material sourcing, adjust tolerances, reduce engineering investment, cut labor costs. None of those levers improve the product. They only ever improve the margin. Consider what the ownership history around that acquisition reveals. Oregon Tool was taken private by Lehman Brothers Merchant Banking in 1999, then passed through American Securities and P2 Capital Partners before Platinum Equity acquired it in 2021. The chain on your saw has been bought and sold by financial investors 4 times in 25 years. The company that invented the modern saw chain has spent most of the current century as a vehicle for financial returns rather than engineering investment. That history matters when you are deciding whether the chain on your new saw was made to the standard that built Oregon Tool's reputation, or to the standard required to hit this quarter's margin target. So if the market is compromised at every level, with consolidated brands, 40-hour consumer engines, documented safety failures at both budget and premium price points, and the chain supplier now in year 4 of a private equity countdown, does that mean you accept the risk and buy what is available? No. It means you stop buying like a consumer and start buying like someone who actually understands what is inside the machine. There are 3 categories of saws worth your money. The best value in the entire market costs less than $400 today. The first category is pre-acquisition professional saws on the used market. The Husqvarna 372 XP, built in Husqvarna, Sweden, from 1999 until approximately 2011, is the saw that working loggers still reference the way serious craftsmen reference legacy instruments. On every major arborist and logging forum, threads asking for the greatest 70cc saw ever built converge on the same answer. 70cc in a magnesium crankcase, engineered before EPA emissions mandates forced the design compromises that damaged its replacement. When Husqvarna introduced the X-Torque version around 2011, documented main bearing failures followed. Multiple service bulletins were issued, components were redesigned multiple times, and eventually the platform was retired. The original 372 XP still trades used for $500 to $700. For the Stihl equivalent, look at the 044, also sold as MS440, a professional 70 cubic centimeter saw from the 1990s that mechanics consistently call one of the most rebuildable tools in the category. Running examples trade for $400 to $700, and factory replacement parts remain in production for a saw that may be 3 decades old. That is what a tool designed to be rebuilt rather than replaced actually looks like in practice. The second category is the one modern exception, the Echo CS 590 Timberwolf. Echo is owned by Yamabiko Corporation, a Japanese company formed from the merger of Kyoritsu and Shindaiwa in 2008, operating outside U.S. public equity market pressure. The CS590 runs a 59.8 cubic centimeter engine in a genuine magnesium crankcase, carries a 5-year consumer warranty plus a lifetime warranty on the ignition module, and retails for approximately $399. Professional reviewers consistently benchmark its internal build quality alongside saws priced $200 to $300 higher. It is the one current consumer tier saw not engineered to expire in 40 hours. The third category is the brand whose founding decision still defines its market position, Stihl. Andreas Stihl AG and Company KG is privately held and family-owned. The third generation of the Stihl family sits on the advisory and supervisory boards with no shareholders to answer to. In 2024, the company reported €5,328,000,000 in revenue, and they still will not sell a single gas-powered saw through Home Depot or Lowe's. Products reach customers exclusively through approximately 10,000 independent servicing dealers required to fuel, test, and register every saw before it leaves the shop. The dealer who sold the saw is the dealer who repairs it. That creates a direct accountability loop that the national retail model eliminates by design. Here is the detail almost no one outside the industry knows. Stihl builds the majority of its products sold in the United States at a 150-acre campus in Virginia Beach, Virginia. The campus has over 2,100 employees, with in-house crankshaft machining and integrated production operating since 1974. In 1995, the Virginia Beach plant exceeded the output of all Stihl's German facilities combined. The best-selling chainsaw brand in the world, every year since 1971, makes most of its American product in America. The brands filling the entrance to every hardware store are counting on you to never know any of this. They are betting the price and the name are enough that you will not ask what the crankcase is made of, or who owns the company making your chain, or whether the safety systems were checked before the saw shipped. But if you know what to look for, pre-acquisition professional steel under $700 used, a Japanese manufacturer still answering to engineers, or a family-owned brand that chose dealer accountability over retail volume, you can still buy a saw built to last for decades. Do not let an exit timeline determine what goes in your hands. Check the crankcase. Check the ownership. The saw is only as trustworthy as the company that built it. If this kind of investigation is the content you want more of, hit subscribe. There is considerably more where this came from.